We're
Dude,
discussing.
I'm
what-
literally just starting. You're bad at
Oh,
this already.
I am. I'm terrible.
Well, there was an awkward pause.
I thought. Yeah. So let's just say that's
Welcome to Politics for People Who Hate Politics. All of my guests are terrible, and I should ban them all, especially Chris.
And they're men. They're all men.
They're all men. They're all mansplaining to me as I try to host my show. This is an outrage.
That's not what we were doing.
I need. You're all terrible. All right. Welcome to Politics for People Who Hate Politics, episode possibly 14, but I don't know, honestly, at this point. I have some good guests, some old favorites like Joe, my brother, who does technical wizardry for the Stag blog and other blogs and gets little to no appreciation for that. And every once in a while he writes something. And he plays a bass in a band called Act of Pardon, which is kind of a terrible band, but he's good at the bass, and they're musically gifted. I just kind of hate the music they play.
Wow. Thanks.
Yeah.
Stabbing me in the back.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. We have Todd Seavey, who I don't really know the simple summation of his work, but he writes a lot of
libertarian
good
writer,
things.
ghostwriter, occasionally TV producer.
That's, you know what, I knew all of that. I don't know why I was saying I didn't. He does all those things, and his blog is good, even though it's too infrequent. And we have JL Aharam, my friend, who writes things and photographs things. And I honestly don't... Tell me what you're up to lately real quick, JL, in case you're doing something new, or just... Give me the deets right now.
I just started my second to the last semester at USC, I guess.
Cool.
I do that right now.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is that fun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Okay. Learning is good. And we have Interrupter Supreme, Chris Morgan, who I'm going to shame a little bit. But he's also the only first-time guest, so that's mean. And he is a writer in New Jersey, and he was a writer for Biopsy magazine, but no longer, sadly. But welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Apologies for the shaky start, and apologies in advance for any and all future transgressions.
I'm just glad that wasn't my fault at all. For once. That's good. It's a good beginning. Okay. I want to start with sort of a rambly and open-ended topic, as usual, but one that's very fitting for the name of the show, Hating on Politics. And I'm going to tie this to two recent things with the Pauls, the old Paul and curly-haired Moppet Paul. Ron Paul, or rather the Ron Paul Institute, which is sometimes a dodgy organization affiliated with a few people that... Anyway, they published a conspiracy theorist mongering article recently about the Charlie Hebdo massacre in Paris. You know, sort of like the classic sort of not thinking very hard, just asking questions, was it a false flag type thing, like your basic idiocy. And that's annoying because, you know, obviously it makes, you know, Ron Paul look dumb, and outlets from Salon to the Blaze kind of jumped on and were like, oh my god, libertarians are being crazy again. And also, we had some controversy, which honestly shouldn't count as controversy, but it does, with Marion Copenhaver, who actually made the logo for this very podcast, and seems pretty awesome, though I haven't met her in real life, officially yet. And she's been doing a little bit of social media stuff for I almost said the Rand Paul campaign, the assumed Rand Paul campaign. And the Free Beacon, that neocon rag, were the first people to write an article about how she said mean things about Lindsey Graham and John McCain and used profanity about them, and is a self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist, and basically believes, you know, in a sort of a collection of very unexpected libertarian beliefs. And I kind of want to talk about, like, but both, like, practically whether this means anything for the credibility of libertarians or lack thereof, and also sort of why both of these controversies even though, the Charlie Hebdo false flag one is a little more legitimate to me, why they're both sort of signs of the bullshit of politics, making something out of small things, whereas, people like Lindsey Graham want to go to war every 5 minutes, and somehow that's not quite as offensive. Joe, start us off with something here.
Well, libertarians don't really have any credibility, so we don't have to worry about that. That's not an issue.
Fair enough.
But, I mean, first you had, I don't know who at the Washington Free Beacon.
A woman named Alana Goodman, I believe. Not the usual offenders like Sonny Bunch, like that's even a real name. Like he's even a real person.
Well, anyway, they were going to bring this up, and then, of course, I saw from Olivia Newsy, or whatever her name is, in the Daily Beast, asking the question, will this hurt Rand Paul? Well, yeah, of course it's going to hurt him, because they're going to keep bringing it up, and they're never going to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll forget about it, and then during the campaign that we all assume is coming, this kind of stuff will pop up again. Is he too libertarian? Is he too isolationist? And, it probably, it shouldn't hurt him, but, people are going to talk, and the usual neocon BS will bring it up whenever it's useful to them.
I think having the two controversies happen at the same time is actually educational for the world and for libertarians, and a reminder of why I think Rand Paul is superior to Ron Paul. In that, basically, regardless of what people's political impulses are, this is a case where each of these controversies is won or lost on the actual empirical merits of the claims being made. There's no proof of the Charlie Hebdo conspiracy. So if you embrace that, you're kind of crazy. By contrast, one of the things Alana Goodman was mocking the Rand Paul affiliated blogger for was saying that the Pledge of Allegiance was written by a socialist.
Right.
It was. That's a
course.
Great example of conservatives thinking they know history better than libertarians, and that they're the inheritors of tradition and so forth, and not really knowing even American history. So Rand Paul can win that one and even educate people about how deep the socialist streak in American history, unfortunately, goes. I say Rand Paul should bring up Alana Goodman and the mistakes the neoconservatives made at every possible opportunity, whereas Ron Paul saying, I don't mind some conspiracy theorists and religious crackpots is not helpful.
It's not. I know it's not. I would never argue that it's helpful. Even Justin Raimondo, bless him, is not, never happy to see things like that.
He stopped following me on Twitter, by the way, and I'm not sure why. But at first I was thinking like, it must be something negative I said about Pat Buchanan or something. But I have a new theory. I think he was upset because I made a joke about Auburn University, which is across the street from the Mises Institute, having one of the highest, I think it's one of the 5 highest STD rates of all the colleges in America. I think that might be what upset him.
That's an amazing tangent. I can't. Justin tolerates my insubordination, but let's not go down any Justin tangents.
Okay. All right.
That's ridiculous. I guess for me, with the whole, Dan McAdams, we follow each other on Twitter. He does publish some stuff, from these writers, and it's just so unfortunate it's happening under Ron Paul's name. What they're doing at RPI, is mostly good. We can say that it's mostly good. It's raising questions about our foreign policy that most think tank there isn't any other think tank out there that's dedicated. Very few that are dedicated to peace. But yeah, this does kind of for me it raises questions about judgment in terms of why are they publishing credibility destroying articles.
Yeah.
One thing that I suppose has made people more psychologically inclined within the movement to accept this kind of thing is that so many people in the last few years, of course, came into the movement via libertarian conspiracy theorist Alex Jones's radio show. And I think so. I mean, I don't have hard numbers. I wish I did, but that's my impression. He sometimes takes credit for getting the Ron Paul presidential campaigns going because
I think Ron Paul gets credit.
Oh yeah.
Young libertarians, you know.
But I was going to say, Alex Jones is pushing an even crazier Charlie Hebdo conspiracy theory. He was running a clip on his site that supposedly showed that when they captured, or actually when they shot and killed one of the Hebdo gunmen, his hands were already tied up, as if he'd been a captive already, and they just shot him for show. And even in their own clip, you can see that although the guy, when he starts running from the cops at one point, or we're actually running from some and towards others, his hands are together, but by the time he stumbles and falls near them, both his hands are widely separated and flailing around, but you'd have to watch really closely to see that. And I'm not saying everyone should watch the video closely, but the people who claimed it was evidence the hands were tied together probably should have watched it more closely.
Like, CV, I don't mean to downplay the fact that there are human beings in the world who take Alex Jones seriously, because there are, and that's a problem. But, I mean, every time something horrible happens, like the kind of people I follow on Twitter are like, oh, Alex Jones is at it again. He says X is a false flag. Like, dude, tell me when he says it isn't a false flag, because that is news, and the rest is just his shtick, you know. What bothers me, and this is actually Michael Tracy, my friend, though I've never met him, it's weird. He kind of had a wonderful response to Ron Paul and this stupid article being published, which is, you know, right-wingers embrace their own arguably more subtle, sometimes, conspiracy theories that are intended to go to war. Like, I think that, I don't want to say that, like, I'm glad to see this idiotic article under any kind of Ron Paul banner, but it is another one of those things where that somehow just destroys Ron Paul's credibility and destroys all our credibility by extension. And, you know, the most staunch advocates of the Iraq War, who are still clinging to, like, various myths about it 5 minutes ago, their credibility never seems to be shattered quite enough. I mean, there's a convenience in the narrative, even if, yeah, that article was stupid and I wish it wasn't there, and someone needs to tell Ron Paul to stop tolerating this kind of thing.
And the mainstream conservatives also have a fair share of birthers and the like, sort of thing too.
Right. Yeah.
All the Bill Clinton killed the guy.
Those are like the most boring conspiracy theories. Like, anytime it's like a Clinton conspiracy theory, I'm just like, I don't care.
State troopers and adultery.
Yeah, it's so banal compared to some of the really good ones.
The 90s were more peaceful times.
Except for when we were melting Branch Davidians, you know, on occasion.
Well,
I just want to go back to Rand Paul's hiring of the Libertarian girl. You know, there's two things going on there. First is the fact that it's so weird for a liberty-aligned senator to have people who are libertarians on his staff somehow somehow it doesn't occur to conservatives that could happen. So that's one. I mean, what's next? Are they going to attack Rand Paul for showing up in a convention where Glenn Greenwald gave a special address to? I'm talking about the Yale convention. You know, so I mean, people were like cheering for Edward Snowden. And that's the thing that's you know, these people from the Free Beacon and these people like Jennifer Rubin don't seem to realize that there is a substantial number of people within the Liberty Movement who are working for, you know, for very consequential organizations, Generation Opportunity, Americans for Prosperity, you know, Koch-affiliated institute who are anarchists. You know, they're straight up, you know, anarcho-capitalists or whatever, what kind of flavor of anarchists they are, and you know, I just find it so funny that it's like such a big news, and for us libertarians, like, that's not really a big deal, you know.
I know. I mean, the Beacon piece, it's like it had the format of a hit piece,
Mhm.
but it wasn't one. That was the weird part. It was like,
Yeah,
look at
it's
all
like-
these things she believes. And we're like, yeah, we know. We
Although
believe.
just because they're normal to us doesn't mean they aren't damaging PR. That's worth
No,
keeping in
that's
mind.
true.
It's not,
But
the thing, it isn't damaging. That's the thing. It's like it's like the Glenn Greenwald hit piece that came out. Was it last? No, it was 2 years ago. Remember the GG scandals? And everyone's reading it. It's like these aren't scandals.
I can't remember those. But I don't know.
Yeah. Supposedly he had what was it? I can't remember because it was so inane.
Mhm.
But I mocked it for a bit. So anyway.
The Free Beacon piece was like one small step up from something like Chuck Johnson or whatever would publish.
No,
It was,
because he just writes lies. I mean, as far as I can tell. Or
By the way, I'm
completely
friends with-
unconfirmed.
I'm friends with both Sonny Bunch and Charles C. Johnson, so
Dude,
Yeah,
why do I talk to you?
if you want
Why
to
are
hear
you so excellent? You know the stupidest people.
what? Oh no. They're and they both like sci-fi and comic books, so they
Okay, well,
they have to be good-hearted people.
I like those things too, but come on, dude.
I
What?
drew a cute meme of I call him CC baby, CC BB.
He likes to dig up dirt by his own admission, and once in a while, there'll be something that's inaccurate. But as he would say, the New York Times does corrections, and so does he. And sometimes, he gets good stuff that nobody else is paying attention to, and they probably should be. In the case of Sonny Bunch,
He
I mean,
has no soul.
no, I think a lot of his instincts are sort of libertarian. He just, he just thinks our government isn't the only one worth overthrowing. And I can sympathize with that position. All right.
That is way too generous of a picture of Sonny Bunch. Good God.
I admit it does skew even his impression of comic books at times, though, because he liked the movie Captain America 2, as did we all, but he didn't like the fact that Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. turn out to be the same organization.
oh, spoiler.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I literally have not seen that movie yet, so,
Oh,
Okay.
and I read a lot of IO9, and I still am not familiar enough with Captain America-ness to have picked up that spoiler. So I'm going to try to forget that. It's like the time I accidentally read Ender's Game spoilers and then forgot it repeatedly, but I still haven't read that book.
I
may
haven't
have
ruined
missed
the
the
whole thing.
window.
I really haven't.
Okay.
Side note.
It's-
Sonny Bunch said you would be terrible at parties, Lizzie.
well, he's actually right about that, so
I wanted to actually tweet him and say, how did you know? Were you at my party I threw when I was in high school? When my parents went out of town?
you should have done that. That would have been really funny, actually.
Yeah.
I despise that man.
I'm sure he'll subtweet you again.
Oh, he loves doing that. He's such a little bitch. Anyway, sorry, Todd. I still like you a lot. Chris,
They're
you
both
haven't
very
chimed
friendly.
in. I want you to chime in. I'm sure they are, Todd. But
Well-
they're also bad people.
I really want to say I've heard about the Ron Paul thing, and I've heard more about the Rand Paul thing.
hmm
And the Rand Paul thing interests me a little bit more, just because, Ron Paul is, retired. He's doing whatever, and I think since Rand Paul is I guess Rand Paul is trying to go the distance, going to try and go for the nomination. Is that sort of a foregone conclusion at this point?
It's rather seems that way, yeah.
I'd like to see that because I think he'd be an interesting sort of addition to all the other candidates that I've heard about, all of whom are terrible in their own ways.
That they are.
My family's convinced that it's going to be Jeb Bush and it's going to be Hillary Clinton running against each other, and I'm not too excited about that.
If it's gonna be two monstrous people, I want it to be those two because the nihilistic joy that I'll take in that, just like fuck it, I don't care. Let's burn it down.
Just want the world. You want to see the world burn.
At that point, yeah. I mean, if it really turns out that way, we should just burn it all down.
God.
And you can
Bush
quote me on that if I ever help Rand
Bush
Paul with
versus
anything.
Clinton. Oh my God.
But I would like to see, I agree with Todd. If any American voter is going to pay attention about what points were made in the Free Beacon piece and how Rand Paul would like to respond to them, assuming if they're going to be brought up again and again, which they probably are, I like to see those debates happen and to have, neocon bullshit answered to in kind finally after all this time.
And
Yeah.
I think the Pledge of Allegiance is actually a winnable issue because
It's factual. I mean, she was completely right.
and not only that, but Rand Paul could actually say, "I'm saddened the neoconservatives are so sympathetic to socialism. Look at how deep the communist rot has become in our party that they're defending this slogan written by a commie."
Do they not know, or do they not know? Do they not believe when people have repeatedly said that?
It doesn't matter, and that's the thing. And that's the thing that's so funny about it. Like it doesn't matter that it was written by a socialist or a communist. What matters is it's pledge of allegiance to the flag, and America loves the American flag. So this conversation that we're having, America doesn't care about history. It can barely remember what happened like 15 years ago, or prior to that.
That's totally true.
So I mean, the fact that is it going to be a problem? I don't think so. This fake controversy, it's not going to be repeated. No one cares about Libertarian Girl. I actually like. I've heard of her, but I didn't realize that she was super popular. And as someone who pays attention to the Liberty Movement, how is it like I don't really know her?
I've been asking myself
someone who's
for a
such a
decade, every few
celebrity.
days.
How come I've never really heard of her? Like I've
She's
never
just kind
seen
of
any
a
of her work.
social media sort of.
Weird.
She's like a graphic designer and a social media person.
Well, that's the thing. Like, does it matter?
Well, it doesn't matter who she is. It matters that
She
she's
wasn't hired
affiliated.
for her libertarian views. I'm guessing. I'm guessing she was hired because she's good at social media and she has,
Which she clearly is,
a
because
ton of
damn.
social media followers. And I don't think her stance on John McCain really affects what she'll be doing for the campaign, which isn't, ostensibly offering advice to Rand Paul. It's,
Right, she's not like his advisor.
And just to be clear, too, I don't think she's gonna be working for the campaign. I think she's working for the office.
Mm.
Like there's the Senate office and there's Rand Pack, and from what I understand, from how I believe it's like a guy named Harris who's running the Rand Pack social media stuff. So
Well, there's something nobody will keep track of, though.
Right. I mean, but this sort of speaks to like the Rand Paul catch, though, which is if he was exactly like everyone else in the potential nominees camp, there would be no point to him. He would be just as, boring as them with less experience than some of them. I don't know if that people value governorships more than senator. I don't know. I don't care. But I mean, like, his libertarian leanings are what make him interesting. His criminal justice, occasionally working with liberals on actually good causes, which is, why he's interesting to me. And if all of that went away, all of this controversial stuff to the Beacon crowd went away, he wouldn't be interesting anymore. But obviously, if he's too much like Ron Paul, he's never going to make it anywhere. It's the impossible Rand Paul thing that this kind of, I don't know.
I mean, it's a little bit, it keeps him in the news, I mean, the fact that Free Beacon spent the effort to do a really stupid hit piece. And the things we'll forget about it, just as we've mostly forgotten about Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, for the most part, it's like I'm glad that shit is over, because I was tired of it. So it was just too much. It's gotten to the point. It's gotten to the point where it's like a parody of itself. Talking this thing about free speech, and next thing you know, France is jailing people. This libertarian controversy. It's a non-controversy. No one cares. It isn't Rand Paul. And they'll attribute it to her. Maybe unfairly for being a female celebrity on social media.
Yeah. Well, the Pauls continue their stuff.
Bad. They need a bad manager.
I guess so. Yeah, both the Pauls have a problem with sort of trusting. I'm not impugning Marianne at all, but just in other cases they've sort of newsletters. You know what I mean. Okay, here's a new thing to talk about. People are freaking out about American Sniper, and there are a lot of right-wing trolls who think that
American
if you
hero.
don't, yeah. And unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet. I actually might go see it tomorrow. Okay, Stevie, speak to us. Yeah, but you have
Don't ruin
neocon
it. Don't
sympathies.
ruin it like you ruined Captain America for me.
Wasn't that like 2 years ago?
Yes, it was. Yes, he does.
I haven't totally ruined Captain America.
That's
And also, in my defense, all the fallout of the Captain America movie has been going on for like the last season and a half on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I just figured by now
I have a lot of things to watch, okay?
I think your word would have leaked out by now. But actually, I accidentally spoiled for a friend of mine the fact that Coulson's not really dead. It was like, he's the star of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. How could you not know that? But anyway, yeah, he's not really dead. I don't know if I ruined that just now for anyone, but
Maybe you did. I don't know.
Oh, American Sniper. That's arguably more important. I saw it, and I think like several things Clint Eastwood has done, it's actually very scrupulously politically balanced in that he knows he's got a certain conservative audience, but when the moments of conscience come for the character, they have a tendency to be liberal in a Hollywood-pleasing way. So I don't think there should really be leftists should not be freaking out about the movie. And if conservatives aren't, that probably speaks well of them. So I think it was a decent movie and fairly balanced. The oddest reaction to it, I thought, was actually Seth Rogen, of all people, saying that he thought it was a propaganda piece. What wasn't it just like 3 weeks ago he did a movie about overthrowing the government of North Korea, and now he's complaining about propaganda pieces? And as far as I know, Clint Eastwood's movie was just created because like Clint Eastwood or somebody affiliated with him read the book American Sniper by Chris Kyle, whereas I kind of think the State Department and the CIA were actually involved from the get-go in Seth Rogen's movie. So if either of these is a propaganda piece, I would think it's the Seth Rogen one. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who did the hacking exactly. I'm not saying any of that was faked, but supposedly the CIA was consulting with Sony and the State Department with the producers of the movie. So I don't know. Seth Rogen's in no position to criticize. Maybe he was projecting when he criticized American Sniper. I don't know. In fact, I think, strictly speaking, the Seth Rogen and James Franco characters in the admittedly fictional interview end up causing more deaths than the real-life Chris Kyle does. But in any case, I actually recommend both.
I would say
both
spoiler
movies.
alert, but I have no interest in that movie.
I recommend both movies, even though they're both propaganda.
Horrible combination.
There can be.
Yeah, it's true. And Eastwood, I remember I haven't seen his Iwo Jima movies since they came out, and I might be more critical of them now because I'm more insane. But I liked them both, especially Letters from Iwo Jima, which is actually from the Japanese side, which it takes us 6 decades to actually realize, wow, this is kind of an interesting perspective that we don't see much. I mean, in Flags of Our Fathers, like, you don't see the Japanese at all. And I think you barely see any Americans in Letters from Iwo Jima. I honestly don't remember, but
you
see
one scene that reproduced itself in both films.
Yeah.
An American soldier getting killed. Oh, you see it from different viewpoints. You see it from before it happens and when it happens.
That kind of rings a bell, yeah. And I think just to make that movie at all, even after all this time, is a little bit of an edge to it. So I liked Eastwood for that. I think people who have actually read the book American Sniper, like, out of context, there are some really nasty sounding quotes from Kyle. He doesn't sound like he was a good person at all. And being that being that, like, in awe of a sniper. Also, sort of, I don't think a sniper is necessarily any more objectionable than other types of soldiers. But I don't know. I just the right wing people who just seem really just like circa 2004 level of "you love terrorists" type of response to any kind of criticism to this is weird. I think people are some people even who they're objecting even to Eastwood's balanced sort of approach and his sort of humanistic approach when Kyle seems to have turned himself into a bit of a caricature and
Right.
seems to have been kind of a pathological liar.
Yeah. On that same note, I read a piece on National Review from AJ Delgado, who wrote
Mhm.
about, that, I mean, even Chris Kyle may have been a war hero in the standard definition of, what everyone considers a war hero, especially in America, but he also lied about a bunch of stuff. He actually,
Yeah.
he sued, or when Jesse Ventura sued him, Jesse Ventura was right. That's what AJ Delgado says, and I tend to agree, about defaming him and saying he punched him out. He obviously had a penchant for over-exaggeration.
Which means the conspiracy theorist defeated the American hero in court.
That's true. We can't have that.
But I mean, nobody seems to be able to separate the war hero from the guy who may have not been that great of a guy. And I don't think Clint Eastwood necessarily it's not a propaganda piece, I don't think, about Chris Kyle. I think it's just a good story that he wanted to tell.
That's the thing, though. The Eastwood treatment of, like, we're all humans and we're all vaguely tortured by going to war is arguably its own type of slant that you can legitimately object to.
I don't think the Japanese like that term. Oh, I'm sorry. I see.
God damn it, Todd. I mean, like, yeah, we like Imperial Japan is very, very nasty. And to make people fighting for Imperial Japan be sympathetic, whereas, any implication that anyone opposing American soldiers in Iraq, they're all terrorists or
Which
killing them.
Clint Eastwood did oppose American soldiers in Iraq. He opposed them in Afghanistan. He's
right. I like
he's
Eastwood.
The most dovish person.
But that doesn't mean that shows up in the movie or that the movie's not, the interpretations of it are not subjective. I don't know.
Everyone's terrible at interpreting things, so that's the problem. In this case, I believe everyone is just completely and wildly misinterpreting the movie.
I think it's got something for everyone, just like Team America.
I have no opinions regarding the movie because I haven't seen it. Plus, I despise Chris Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it. I mean, he was all over the place, before he died, and he was a despicable person then, But this whole idea, let's just talk about the idea of a hero. In terms of like, if you look at like the Homer, for example, he's our Achilles. He's the guy who is really good at what he does, but deeply dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be a hero and still have all these flaws, and that's what the American public is responding to, and for the most part, because of Iraq, because of Afghanistan, the American public that hasn't really had the chance to have a hero. We don't really have, we have the support the troops thing, but everyone's a hero, so no one is.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that served in Iraq and who's a veteran is a fucking hero. That's not true. And it manifests itself in the way that people just flock to the movie theaters to watch this film. It kind of speaks deeply to the fact that the American public is starving for someone to look up to. We live in an age of no heroes.
But I mean, do they want somebody from the War on Terror specifically to be their hero of the War on Terror? Is it more particular to like these wars that everyone got sick of? Or is it just like a general, like, look, a heroic guy, let's give our money to the maker of this movie? Like, I mean, is it because they want the war on terror to look better or to have meant something?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's because everyone. I don't want to say that everyone sacrificed for these war, but everyone has paid into it for in one way or the other. The recession, if you believe Ron Paul, for example, is tied directly to our spending in Afghanistan and Iraq, and our economy suffering because of that. So for the most part, everyone has some sort of sacrifice in this war against terror. And with our civil liberties being violated left and right, that is also a sacrifice in this war on terror. So yeah.
It just seems like he was such a bad choice to, like, that Eastwood's skills could have been put to better use. I don't know. I feel more sympathetic to, like, Ira Hayes, drunken Ira Hayes, than I do towards Chris Kyle, honestly. But I don't know.
Because Chris Kyle survived, and he was able to publish a book, and he was a shameless self-promoter.
Yeah, which in itself
that's
isn't
why,
yeah.
And that's why he's out there. And he was controversial, and he was unashamed in his hatred of Muslims. He was unashamed in his hatred of black people. In the way he brags about, oh, we're gonna be shooting people in Katrina, in New Orleans in Katrina, we're gonna shoot all of them.
Which he didn't do. I mean, like, there's no reason to think he actually was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But it's that bravado. It's that unashamedly American. It's we make no apologies for what we do. People like that, and coming from the heels of this Sony hack, people just want, I don't know.
I suppose if we're worried
Can we blame Obama for this?
Hashtag thanks Obama.
If we're worried about Hollywood producing propaganda, we should probably be troubled by the fact that Chris Kyle's influence is so pervasive that nearly every major Hollywood production has craft services at the end. And no, sorry, that was an attempt to make a joke involving his Kraft International and the craft services food cart they always have. But
I didn't get
it.
It was too obscure in both directions.
That was wow.
I know what craft services are.
No.
Okay.
That was never going to happen, Todd. That was doubly never going to happen. Well done. I enjoyed it for its lack of working at all.
If Dennis Miller were here, he would have appreciated it.
That doesn't bode well either.
No.
Not anymore, at least. Damn.
I'm sorry.
I feel weird because, like, I love the movie Downfall, which is about Hitler, and I think Hitler is. This is going to sound great out of context. Hitler is a great subject for a semi-humanizing film.
Oh God!
Because have you guys seen Downfall? It's awesome.
I've seen Downfall, yeah.
Yeah, it takes place in the Fuhrer bunker. You have the sick, hysterical, crazy Hitler, the ranting Hitler of all those stupid YouTube memes. But you also have the guy, you see him pet his dog, you see him smile, the flashback to him picking his secretary and smiling at the pretty girls and stuff. And you get this really good sense of kind of the Hitler and also the Hitler who was a human, as much as it would be easier to think he was a monster. But that works because we know it's incredibly, it's like the most common historical knowledge probably out there, one of them, that Hitler was this monstrous person. To remind you he was a human being as well makes a good movie.
Rand Paul sympathizing podcast host sympathizes with Hitler.
Exactly.
It just gets worse and worse.
It really does. This is my collateral against ever selling out, is everything I've ever said on the internet.
I mean, you're not totally wrong. I just read this 1,200-page book on Hitler.
Nice.
And it was quite good. I just wanted to brag. I read it in like 4 days.
Good job, Joe.
The one, like, World War II era sort of film that I've always appreciated was actually it was produced by I think the BBC, but also aired on HBO, called Conspiracy,
Yeah, I just
which
watched that too.
is about the Wannsee Conference. Um, Kenneth Branagh plays Reinhard Heydrich, and Stanley Tucci plays
Eichmann.
Eichmann. Yeah, Eichmann, and they have all the other figures who came to Wannsee to sort of coordinate the final solution, and it just takes place in that scene more or less in real time. 'Cause I don't think the meeting took very long, and all they really had to base it on was one person's notes.
Mhm.
So a lot of the dialogue is embellished, but it's very, intelligent and quickly paced. But it basically just addresses the sort of the cold efficiency and bureaucracy about how the Holocaust was carried out, how the concentration camp organizations were made. And that I always found probably more compelling than Downfall, just because that was sort of the wheels turning. And it's I consider it a legit horror film.
Yeah, no doubt.
World War II film. And I kind of appreciated, not the exact same extent, but the most recent like war and terror type film I've seen was Zero Dark 30 a while back.
Yeah, which I kind of dislike, honestly.
I didn't really get the problems with the depictions of the enhanced interrogation, because I didn't think that they were an endorsement of them. I think that Catherine Bigelow was sort of letting us know that they happened and showed them in such unflinching, detail. I'm surprised that it didn't get any. I guess I'm not surprised at the controversy. I just saw it differently than anyone else.
I think Zero Dark 30 doesn't have to be endorsing torture to still offer this message that it was horrible and grim, but we did it and it was worth it and we got Bin Laden. Like it's more clever to have this veneer of sophistication that said, we can't accept World War II era propaganda anymore because we would think, like the Donald Duck short, like Donald Duck is being harangued about paying for the war effort. Like that level of subtlety, or lack of subtlety, we can't do that anymore. We wouldn't accept it. But now there is this whole new war. Oh, it's horrible and it's grim and it beats you up, but they're still like, but we're on the right side and we had to do it and it was worth it.
I think the most egregious entertainment of that sort, even though I liked it, was probably 24, where it kept getting more ridiculous as it went along because they had to, up the ante. And by the end, it's like every week Jack Bauer would be saying like, "I'm sorry, but we have to stick your child's head inside this hole to block the acid from coming out and killing everyone. 1 million people are gonna die. I'm sorry, but it has to be done." It's just like it kept getting more ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that was all about the ticking time bomb scenario that never happens.
He even held a gun on a surgical team in one episode and made them stop operating on a guy because he needed them to go work on a terrorist so they could save him and find out where the bomb was.
God, I'm glad I never watched that show. It sounds so terrible.
That's one thing, but just because like Clint Eastwood made a movie about Iraq War that wasn't like explicitly anti-American, I mean, it doesn't mean that it's super pro rah patriotic.
No.
Unfortunately, the problem is most people in America are just so stupid that they can't actually examine a movie on its own merits. It has to tie into a million different things, usually just reinforcing their own biases. And I think the real problem is America's dumb.
I mean, there is this idea like the halfway terrible, halfway kind of entertaining movie Swing Kids, which also has Kenneth Branagh as a Nazi, which I was going to say he played as a Nazi a lot. It's a little weird. He once narrated a thing about Eichmann. What?
It was about Goebbels.
About the Norse gods.
Yeah, Goebbels, right, my bad. Okay, but the movie Swing Kids, I remember reading some of our criticisms, it's like, well, it doesn't talk about the final solution at all. Well, no, it's supposed to be from the perspective of a bunch of dumbass German teenagers who just like music and are trying to get away with listening to the music they like without getting in trouble. I mean, movies are not supposed to be about everything just because they're at about a certain point in time. It's true. But I don't know. I mean, I think I have to see the movie, but I think it is possible to be sort of bullshit even when you're being as sophisticated looking as Eastwood tends to be. And I do think that it sounds like Kyle was a really bad choice for this type of movie because you have to manufacture his regret, you know, and imply that how heavy it all is with somebody who maybe he was full of shit about himself as much as he was full of shit about anything else, but he acted like he liked killing people and he didn't regret anything about any of it, which makes him a bad subject for this kind of movie, and it makes it potentially a more dishonest movie.
Maybe he just wanted to make some money. Eastwood, that is. He wanted to make a blockbuster.
Yeah.
If any Zero Dark 30 fans out there want to see Jessica Chastain do better acting, in my opinion, she's currently in the quasi-gangster movie A Most Violent Year, which I thought was really good, in which she plays the wife of a guy who's trying to keep his business together in 1981 in New York City when crime was at its peak and he doesn't want to become a gangster. And it's the first movie I've seen where I thought, oh, she really actually can act. She's not just pretty. It's almost Randian, the way the guy's like trying to keep his integrity and keep the business together, and at the same time it's sort of subtle in a 1970s French Connection kind of way. And tragically, even though it's technically been out for about 3 weeks, it's only made $800,000. So please go see A Most Violent Year, which I did not produce or anything.
That was wild.
What, Joe? What?
I said that was a crazy non sequitur.
Well,
that's what we keep Todd around for. Actually, that's why we keep like half of you around for, honestly.
That's true.
Yeah, honestly, I could do a whole maybe I should start a podcast about like, overanalyzing things. Yeah, good. Okay. This has been good. We'll discuss this later in our lives. Okay. Well, I'll see the movie tomorrow, and we'll see how it feels. Let's do a little bit of, even though Todd already sort of completed the segue by having his movie tangent, what have we been enjoying in the last week or so that is not related to politics? I'll start. I bought this on eBay for no reason, because I like collecting morbid artifacts. So I'm excited about that. It was a mere $7.
Wow.
If I had a lot, it's very informative. It really is. If I had a lot of money, I would buy very morbid historical artifacts on eBay. You can survive. Check it out. You can. It's okay. You can survive. That's pretty much it. Joe, what have you been enjoying in the past week?
In the past week, I've listened to pretty much every album that's come out so far.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's all I do.
In all of human history?
Well, this year.
Okay.
And I have to say, I like Meghan Trainor's album. It's cool. It's doo-wop and hip-hop.
Her voice is just excruciating.
No, you
all
only
about
heard the
that
one.
bass person?
Yes.
Okay.
No, the rest of it's much better. And Mark Ronson.
So many poor man's Amy Winehouses were spawned from Amy Winehouse.
What? It's nothing to do with Amy Winehouse. You take that back.
No, fake that era and the weird. There's like a whisper in All About the Bass of that voice if Amy Winehouse sucked and was a hack. So yeah.
More like Hairspray style. It's just Hairspray.
No, it's still bad.
I also like Fall Out Boy's new album.
Yeah, you would. I'm gonna listen to the new Justin Townes Earl, which is supposed to be better than his last one, which was really underwhelming. And there's a new Ralph Stanley.
Okay.
With the newer one from like now or the one from last year?
The one that just came out.
Okay.
The one that just came out, Lucy.
Okay, fine.
Told you every album.
And there's a new
None
Ralph
of them
Stanley
that
thing
good.
I'm gonna listen to. So that's good. That'll be good. Music is good. Chris, what have you been enjoying last week that's not politics?
Well, I've actually been enjoying and trying to write about this documentary I saw called Teenage, which came out last winter in theaters. It's based on a history by John Savage, who was one of the early punk writers in the 70s, like probably one of the first in the UK. Um, it's like 80 minutes long. It's not very long, and as far as the history of, the creation of youth culture, it's it kind of skims over a lot. Um, but it covers like because you mentioned swing kids, this reminded me of that. Swing kids and kids who joined the Hitler Youth,
Mhm.
kids working for the CCC and the New Deal. Like it goes from like 1904 to 1945 and and starts to trace how the modern teenager came to be, um, and brings up America's involvement in the world wars and all that. And its basic point, which I found was interesting, was that essentially, the teenager was an American creation and somehow revolutionized the Western world, at least, um, in a positive way, um, which I thought was very strange for, you know, an English writer to be making, because I mostly hear all these complaints about, America giving all these annoying things, Starbucks and whatnot.
Mhm.
And this is sort of like a positive spin on it.
Mhm.
Like American kids were more effective liberators of people than neocons ever were. I'm not sure how true that is exactly,
That's totally true.
because that's giving us too much credit, I think. But I thought that was it was better than I thought it would be, and it's done through like first person accounts. Like there are no talking heads. Like it's just actors reading from journal entries, memoirs, things like that. Like Jenna Malone is like the most famous voice actor there. I don't know. I thought it was good. I'm trying to sort of piece it together for an actual.
It sounds good to me, totally.
Um, but yeah, but it talks about things like subdebs, which I'd never heard of, which were like American like middle class girls who were considered like a big demographic back then. Um, and talks about the White Rose and
Yeah.
all these groups, but it does also give sort of a sympathetic account to what it was like for people to join, say, the Hitler Youth, and how sort of freeing that was amidst the chaos of the Great Depression and all that. I don't know. It's a lot to take in, and I enjoyed it. It's on Hulu now. I enjoyed it more than I thought it would.
I don't know why. I mean, that sounds like a thing that I would enjoy. So I don't know why you're not. Okay. Anyway, that sounds good. Oh, my brain is failing. Can I help you?
How many people are taking?
God. JL, what about you? What have you been doing in the last week?
I bought a couple of things for my kitchen, but if you mean like media, what I'm enjoying, it's kind of related to politics. It's called the Negroes and the Gun.
Oh yeah,
So,
I meant to read that.
yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's nothing to do with like I guess what's happening right now. Well, actually, it does technically. Let me think of a non-political thing that I could share with you. So season 5 of League of Legends started this week, and if any of you guys play video games, probably most of you don't. So I play video games like Hearthstone and League of Legends and things of that nature. Yeah.
I know Joe plays them sometimes, but he wandered off. My video game skills stopped in the.
And I just saw the
90s.
finale of Sailor Moon Crystal, and it was
I had to
great.
yell at my roommate because he.
Everyone's yelling at Stagger Walls right now, and they're ruining everything. And
Yeah.
this is falling into madness and disarray. Okay.
Yeah, so I watched the finale of Sailor Moon Crystal. So if you were a kid once and watch Sailor Moon, the original one, you can watch Sailor Moon Crystal, which is a lot shorter version of that. It's like only 14 episodes. It's all on Hulu. It's like all updated, new animation, shorter storyline from the manga. I don't know. I grew up watching Sailor Moon, and I always told people like think of me as Sailor Moon in personality. I like food a lot. I'm pretty bad at school and kind of clumsy sometimes, you know. And I like cat. I have a cat.
I've made.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great show, I think. Primarily because it's like unintentionally feminist, maybe. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I doubt the lady. Actually, I don't know. The lady who created Sailor Moon. I think she intentionally created a feminist cartoon, but it isn't like. I mean, she's still a normal girl. She likes food. She talks about being fat all the time and like not eating enough or whatever, or not eating too much, for example. And she cries about boys and
Girl.
yeah. What's that? And yeah, so I thought it's a
I
good
said
show.
just like every other girl in the whole world.
Shut up,
Every
Joe.
other girl in the whole world except she's a moon princess. Yeah.
I wish I was a moon princess. Not really. That
Yeah,
sounds
you
exotic.
can be a moon princess.
I'll try. I will
It's
try.
aspirational.
Yeah. So there's that. That's I guess yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, I wish I'm reading like a non-fiction, a fiction book that has nothing to do with politics though. If anyone has a recommendation, let me know.
All I'm reading is weird books about the history of civil defense and weird things like that. More depressing apocalypse shenanigans. Stevie, what about you?
Let's see. I read 4 good books, but now that I think about it, they're all political.
Damn you.
So that's useless. But I will say, actually, back on the movie thing, that it was interesting. Over the past few months, I saw what I thought were several good movies, and I was totally unable to predict which ones would make money and which ones wouldn't. So, for instance, I saw Birdman, and I thought, okay, that's good, but I'm not sure anybody's going to see this thing. And then it actually did okay. By contrast, Jason Reitman, who's the son of Ivan Reitman. Ivan directed Ghostbusters. Jason directed Juno, amongst other things. He had a movie that I thought was comparably good called Men, Women, and Children. That was the most ambitious attempt I've seen to capture how social media has transformed people's family and sex lives, which may sound like a really obvious topic, but I haven't seen anybody else really try to capture it in a 2-hour dramatic form.
I don't think I want to see that in a 2-hour dramatic form is the problem, because I don't think I care that much.
I thought he did a good job of it, though, and in a way
He is good. I mean, I like his stuff.
And in a way that made you, in particular, there was like a sort of an opening sequence that showed high school students having conversations simultaneously with texting toward like people who are on the fringes of the conversation behind each other's backs, and it made you feel like, oh, even though I knew this is part of life, it does kind of look weird and sci-fi like when you step back and think about it. And that again made like $1 million or $700,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then Interstellar did really well, but I also liked the Jeremy Renner movie, Kill the Messenger, about CIA drug smuggling, and again that made like $200,000 or something, or $2 million, I think, but did not do well. So it was interesting that there were a bunch of potential Oscar bait kind of artsy movies toward the end of the year, as there always is now, and I was not really good at predicting which ones would do well and which ones would do poorly. But I've seen almost all of them, so that's good. At least I'm having fun.
The market is a fickle mistress, or something.
Oh, speaking of which, that reminds me that there was actually a Heinlein movie that I wanted to see, which might still be in some big cities. It's probably only showing in like the one art house theater in each big city. But the famous Heinlein time travel story, All You Zombies, has been adapted into the movie Predestination. And so it finally got here from Australia. And gosh darn it, I was, as I often do, I was attentively watching to see where it was going to show so I could go to the one theater in Manhattan and see it. And then I get there, and when I go to buy my ticket in like 17 degrees weather, they tell me, oh, we should warn you, that screening room has no heat. So I didn't buy the ticket, and then I'm thinking, like, I wonder if the movie distributors even know that this problem is happening at the one theater. And sure enough, it closes after 1 week, probably because nobody wanted to sit in the freezing theater. So now that's gone, and I didn't get to see Predestination unless I travel back in time.
Or piracy.
By contrast, there's an Iranian female-directed vampire movie.
Yeah, that's supposed to be good.
A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That, too, is only showing in one theater in Manhattan, and 2 months after it came out, it sold out every night, which I think is kind of amazing.
Todd, as much as I'm impressed by the fact that there was no heating in a movie theater anywhere, You are not allowed to complain about a lack of cultural options when you live in New York City, and I don't. I mean, that's what you trade for having to live in New York City, is that you get sweet things like that. But still, come on.
Instead of your parents' basement.
Yeah, it's a great city over here.
City
Thanks,
of
Joe.
shame.
Thanks, Joe. I hate you all except JL and Todd and Chris. No, that's right. Anyway, all right. Promote yourselves real quick. Let's wrap up this hellscape. Joe, what should the people do with your works?
I don't know. I'm gonna start a music feature on the Stag blog. Maybe, probably not, but I'd like to.
Cool. Sounds good. JL, what about you?
Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Ahram, Aheram. I rage tweet a lot, and sometimes I'm very offensive.
Yes, but it's good.
And occasionally I do hate on libertarians. It's like a once-a-week occurrence. At this point, it's like a once-a-week occurrence. You know, there's something about libertarians that just makes me rage, and I don't know. Maybe it's like the racist bullshit that they post on Facebook or something. Yeah. So
there's reasons to rage. It's true. Be like Angela Keaton and hate the libertarians while being the best libertarian. That's a good life goal, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. Chris, what about you?
Well, I haven't updated the biopsy site in a while, aside from the farewell post, but if anyone wants to check it out, it's biopsymag.com, and I too spend too much time on Twitter, which is at @CR_Morgan. So, yeah, and I share whatever I write whenever it goes up, which is, every couple of months or so.
All right, then. I'll link to all you jerks' Twitters. And CV, where should the people read your works?
I would say if you Google my name, you'll find me on Facebook, Blogger, and Twitter. And if you friend me on Facebook, just send me a message so I know you're not a spam bot, basically. And most of this year, it looks like I'm going to be ghostwriting stuff. But I might have a book with my own name on the cover, so I'll get back to you about that if it works out.
Yay! You write good. I like it.
Likewise.
Thank you. All right, yeah, people can read my stuff at Vice and Anti-War, and sometimes the Stag blog, and Rare when I get back to that. Yeah. Oh, and my God, go look at Liberty.me, because I think it costs a mere $5 a month now, which is a pretty solid, affordable thing. And thank you to Chris and JL and Joe and CV. Thank you, future audience. Hopefully we'll do this again sometime real soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.